Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? It is cut down day in the NFL. A guy who saw plenty of these days during his decade-long career in the NFL, which of course included a Super Bowl championship with the New Orleans Saints, is Scott Shanle, who's good enough to join us for a couple of minutes. Scott, we always appreciate it, man. How are you?
Hey, absolutely. I'm doing good.
Hey, what is today like for the guys in the locker room?
It's tough. It really is. I think, for me, I went through every stage of it. I was a seventh-round draft pick. I made a team. And I had no idea, like, making a team still doesn't mean you make a team. Yeah. You can get cut any day. So it took me a while to learn the business side of it, because right now there's guys who think they made the team, and their team will go claim somebody off the waiver wire, and there will be more roster movement for the next couple of days. But I just think when you get down to that point and you feel like there's a team that thinks I'm good enough to make a 53-man roster in the NFL, it's a good feeling. Regardless of what happens over the next couple of days, you're probably going to end up on a roster somewhere. And I really love the fact that some of these guys can end up on practice squads and give their career a chance. I really like the expanded practice squads. But it is a very nerve-wracking time because you grow close to a lot of guys. There'll be young guys, veterans that you'll be lockering next to. You get to know guys. Some of these guys played on other teams. Maybe they played against your college team. And to see that roster cut in half just like that, it's always a tough time.
Do you have a feeling on how they do it now, where instead of it coming in waves, it's all just one day? You got to go from 90 to 53?
Yeah, I don't like it as much. I really don't. I think the reason I don't like it is because it's a huge influx of players all at once into the free agency system or the waiver wire. And I think it makes it hard for some guys to land with other teams. Usually in the past, there was a first roster cut, then a second roster cut. Usually if you got released early, you could go try out for teams. You still had time to get into another training camp to show a team that you were going to have to make their roster. Now it's really hard. Like you said, it's one big roster cut basically, and it's hard for a lot of guys to get in front of other teams and get tryouts.
Scott Shanle is with us, former Saints linebacker, of course, Saints game day analyst on Your View. One of the ones that everyone's sort of circling today, Scott, is a linebacker you know a lot about. That's Jalen Smith. And the feeling kind of here, Scott, is that he'll probably be back, that they cut him to maybe, allow for an opportunity for someone to maybe make the team, they go to IR, they could open up a spot and bring him back. I think that's fairly common. But what are your overall thoughts on the role Jalen Smith played after joining the Saints just before that second preseason game?
Yeah, I definitely think there's a chance he could be back on practice squad. That's another advantage of the practice squad and allowing veteran players to be on it. But I also am a little bit surprised at how many people thought he would make the roster, because this is a guy, he has attributes that he could play in the NFL, but also at the same time, the Dallas Cowboys gave him a big deal. They ate a chunk of money and said, you can't perform at a level that we'd want to keep you around. The Packers kept him for a cup of coffee. The Giants had him last year. I think if you really look at Jalen's game, he's very limited in playing all three downs. And I think that's why he struggles to stay on teams. He whether it's from the injury he sustained at Notre Dame, he just can't play in open field and in space the way a lot of teams want. And this game has gone down to a two-linebacker system. It's no longer a 3-4 or a 4-3, and you're keeping 7 linebackers. You better be able to play special teams if you make a team, or you really have to be a nickel linebacker and be able to play 3 or 4 downs. And I don't think he's that type of linebacker. He could maybe be your third backer and play over a tight end, but that's probably all you're going to get out of him at this point in his career.
Of the linebackers, the young guys, who stood out that you did? Because that's a giant question, right, Scott? I mean, there was the unfortunate injury, and then obviously you lost 2 linebackers in free agency. So who do you like there?
Yeah, obviously I think you need to stay healthy at every position in the NFL, because when you're talking about a 53-man roster, your starters are going to be, you mentioned a guy like Marshon Lattimore, your secondary automatically needs help immediately. So it's just like with linebacker. You missed Demario Davis or Pete Werner, and automatically you're searching really quick. But I thought Sewell did a good job as a young guy. One thing that stood out to me about him was first preseason game, he's out there getting a ton of snaps on defense. He may have even started in that first preseason game. And I think anytime that happens with a young guy who wasn't drafted high, I think automatically as a fan, you know that guy has done really, really good things in a short amount of time. So I think there's young guys who are going to be huge contributors on special teams. But I'm not really worried about the lack of a veteran presence behind DeMario and Pete, because I think in this defense, with the amount of multiple schemes that Dennis runs, I think those guys will hopefully stay healthy. But I'm not really worried about keeping a guy just because they're a veteran behind those two.
Scott Shanle's with us here for a couple more minutes on Twitter at Scott Shanle. Look, a guy you played with is Jimmy Graham, and he made this team. I mean, is there what's your reaction when you see Jimmy Graham running out there in his mid-30s after sitting out for a year and making this team?
I love it. I think, first of all, a lot of people thought it was one of those feel good, we're going to sign Jimmy, he's going to be here for camp, and then he's going to retire. But I think anybody who saw Jimmy out there run around and bodyguard and, body post guys up in the end zone this last game and score touchdowns and catch back shoulder fades, I tell you, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe this made other Saints fans feel about 10 years younger. But when I see Jimmy Graham in a Saints uniform making plays, I feel like I just played. Like I feel like I should be getting ready to play. And so it's kind of like a time warp, and it's awesome because I think I will go to my grave believing, for whatever reason, why Jimmy got traded. There's lots of different stories. If Jimmy Graham would have worn black and gold his whole career, I really believe you would be talking about him in the same breath we talk about Tony Gonzalez, Antonio Gates, Travis Kelce. I really believe that Jimmy Graham would have had that type of career in New Orleans, and it was a shame it just didn't get extended. But he has a chance to make it right, and I hope he has a really productive year this year.
I don't know if you've looked at the full list of the 53-man roster. Were there any cuts or players that made the team that did surprise you?
I don't know. I don't know about surprise. I think every year you kind of have toss-up between, are they going to go with youth? Are they going to keep this veteran? I don't feel like they got rid of anybody that can't be replaced as far as their production. I know it would have been nice to trade Roby. He's a veteran corner. Everybody needs veteran corners. I don't think the Saints necessarily needed him. Now, again, you need him if Marshawn gets hurt or Taylor gets hurt or Debo, but I really like those three guys at corner. And it comes down to dollars and cents sometimes. Sometimes you can't keep a fourth corner at that type of money. So I think people were probably surprised by Roby. People probably surprised that Lutz got traded. But again, the young guy came in and made some big kicks, and sometimes it really does come down to dollars and cents. Can you be almost as good, if not better, than the veteran guy that we had to get rid of to make our salary cap better for the future?
What about Andrus Peat making the team?
You know what? I know Andrus has been a huge lightning rod for a lot of Saints fans, and me included. He hasn't stayed healthy enough to warrant that type of paycheck every week, or dominant enough. I'll be honest. He has to play better football. But again, I think the one thing that scares organizations, and I'm not going to say I'm surprised by him making the team, because the weakness of this team last year was the offensive line, and not the starters. It was because you were playing with third and fourth string linemen. And when you go from first to second string linemen in the NFL, you will notice a drop off immensely. So it doesn't surprise me that they kept Andrus, because you're going to need a guy who has played a lot of football. If you sustain an injury somewhere, maybe Andrus doesn't start. I don't know. But you have to have guys at guard and tackle that can play multiple positions, because, again, it's a numbers game. You're only going to keep 7 linemen. You need experience at those positions.
His ability, we were talking about it, his ability to play tackle probably was one of the things that weighed very heavily in his favor. It's always interesting. Like you said, Scott, it's never the final 53. It's the first 53. So no doubt in the next 48 hours or so, we're going to see more changes. He's on Twitter at Scott Shanle, of course, Saints Game Day analyst over on Your View. We're looking forward to all the coverage all season long, man. We appreciate a couple minutes whenever we can get it. Thanks, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Take care.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.